7, number 35, Reggie Lewis.
It's a time of incredible grief for everyone in our organization.
It's a shame something like this has to happen to a guy like that.
This is the ESPN SportsCenter, along with Keith Olbermann. I'm Mike Tirico.
The year of loss in sports, which has ranged from the sudden shocking deaths of Steve Olin and Tim Cruz to those of Alan Kulwicki and Davey Allison to those of Chris Street and Drazen Petrovic, has truly been a decade of loss in basketball. It began on the March 9th, 1990, when Hank Gathers died, and now it has continued in poignantly similar manner.
Not just the sport, Keith, but the cause as well. Reggie Lewis died Tuesday night. The 27-year-old Boston Celtic captain who collapsed during a game 3 months ago collapsed again Tuesday at the team's practice facility in Boston. One man was quoted as saying Lewis had earlier in the week talked of practicing with members of the Northeastern basketball team later Tuesday evening. Lewis reportedly arrived in the gym at 4 Tuesday afternoon and was just shooting baskets in what was reported a light workout when he collapsed. After an apparent delay in calling medical attention, Lewis was taken to a nearby hospital at 5:40 and died after nearly 2 hours of failed attempts to revive him. ESPN's Jack Edwards has more from a shocked and saddened Boston.
On Thursday, it will have been 3 months since Reggie Lewis collapsed during a playoff game against the Charlotte Hornets here at Boston Garden. In the weeks following his collapse, Lewis sought and got 2 differing medical opinions from teams of doctors at 2 different Boston hospitals. The second opinion indicated that under care, Lewis could return to a normal life and play again in the NBA. But on Tuesday afternoon, just shooting baskets at Brandeis University in Waltham, about 10 miles from here, something went terribly wrong.
Another girl came to help him sit up, but no one knew that he was having, I guess it was heart problems or whatever he was having, until all of a sudden he just stopped breathing. The people were holding him up, and he would slurp air, irregularly, taking a couple of breaths at a time, and then he just stopped breathing.
Reggie Lewis collapsed this evening at Brandeis University while playing basketball. Local paramedics arrived at the scene and found Mr. Lewis in complete cardiac arrest. Advanced cardiac life support measures were instituted, and Mr. Lewis was brought to the emergency department here at Waltham Weston Hospital, where resuscitation efforts were continued for 1 hour and 50 minutes. They were not successful, and Mr. Lewis was pronounced dead at 7:30 p.m.
We've lost a very treasured member of our family tonight. It's a time of incredible grief for everyone in our organization. We've had people who work for us and players and coaches flood back into our office tonight because they didn't know where else to go or what else to do or what else to think or what else to say. And some went to the hospital when they heard the news. And Larry Bird and Red Auerbach and Dee Brown and Joe Klein and so many of our players have called from all over the country. And the only thing I can say is that our hearts are very heavy tonight for Reggie Lewis and his family. Reggie Lewis was obviously an outstanding basketball player, but Reggie Lewis was an outstanding human being. A gentle, kind, wonderful, considerate guy who just had so much to give to the city of Boston, so much to give to Donna and to their children.
I'm just sort of shocked and deeply saddened that something like this could happen. I mean, we all knew that Reggie had a problem, but when you find out, it's just to happen to a guy like that. It's just a gem of a person. I mean, I don't think anybody could ever say anything bad about Reggie Lewis. I just feel really bad for him and his family.
Beyond the grief and the shock, the airwaves of Boston on Tuesday night were dominated by a single sentiment, that Reggie Lewis was the kind of man who visited Children's Hospital every year just before Christmas, not for the publicity it would bring him, but for the joy he knew it would bring the children. The fans of Boston want the sports world to know that Reggie Lewis was much more than just the captain of the Celtics. Let's send it back to SportsCenter.
Over the last few weeks, Lewis was quoted as saying he knew everyone would be watching to see if he collapsed again. But what most were watching, wondering, what would the next chapter be? Reggie Lewis said he wanted to play again, but no one, not even Reggie, knew if the problems which started this season would end his career. The first hint that Reggie Lewis had a health problem came March 24th. Boston playing Miami, Lewis left the game briefly with dizziness. He returned that day and led all scorers with 22 points. But a month later, during the Celtics' first playoff game against Charlotte, Lewis collapsed midway through the first quarter. He was taken to the locker room, examined, and allowed to return in the second half. But Lewis felt dizzy again in the third quarter. He left the game, never to play again. Reggie Lewis spent 3 days hospitalized. The Celtics assembled what they called a dream team of doctors to find the problem.
He's been through an enormity of tests in 3 days. I mean, the doctors tell me that the tests that were done on him, normal patients might take 3 weeks to get them all done, and these were done in 3 days, and it wasn't until the very last test that they discovered anything, and then they discovered a cardiac abnormality that is concerning.
Essentially, his working diagnosis is a ventricular tachycardia, which is an
layman terms.
It's an arrhythmia, an irregularity of the heart.
Is his career over with, do you think?
Strong probability.
The Lewis case brought comparisons to Hank Gathers, the Loyola Marymount player who collapsed, returned to basketball under medication, only to collapse and die playing basketball 3 months later. Despite likening his experience to that of Gathers, Lewis needed to know more, checking himself out of the first hospital to get a second opinion. The new diagnosis, a benign fainting condition.
I am optimistic that under medical supervision, Mr. Reggie Lewis will be able to return to professional basketball without limitation.
Reggie, do you feel that with this diagnosis and with what the doctors have said that you could play now with total confidence that you'll be okay?
Well, I'm really sure that I can. I think that's why it's taken so long for us to come up with the statement, because we wanted to be 100% sure that I will be able to go back and lead a normal life and do whatever I would like to do.
For the last few weeks, Lewis has been doing what he was doing Tuesday, shooting baskets, not breaking a sweat, but not practicing. Through the summer, the Celtics have been purposely vague on Lewis's future as a player. The Celtic family, as you may remember, no stranger to a young player's tragic death. June of 1986, first-round pick Len Bias was found dead 2 days after he was drafted. Later in the show, we'll look at the basketball life of Reggie Lewis.
Whether for heroics or for tragedy, he died to play basketball. Coming up, a look at the life of Reggie Lewis, ending on a court. That when SportsCenter resumes.
The death of Reggie Lewis will be the subject of inquiry, controversy, and shock for weeks and months to come.
One of the many sadnesses unbridled when news of his passing came. Among the saddest is the fact that so much of an accomplished life will have been obscured by a controversial death. Reggie Lewis did a lot in 27 years on and off the court. On the powerhouse teams at Dunbar High in Baltimore in the early 80s, he was not, at the start, good enough to start. Then again, the school did have Muggsy Bogues and Reggie Williams and David Wingate. But by the time Reggie Lewis arrived on Huntington Avenue in Boston, home of Northeastern University, he was being scouted for a special role. As had the late Len Bias, the man to whom Larry Bird's torch of Celtic leadership was to be passed, Lewis, while in college, worked for Red Auerbach at his summer basketball camp. Meanwhile, he led the Huskies into the NCAAs each of his 4 years there. And on March 13, 1986, while Northeastern was losing an opening round tournament game to Oklahoma, Lewis burst into national prominence, showing the balance and speed off the first step and the soft touch on the jumper, earning from winning coach Billy Tubbs fulsome praise. He's the best player in the country. Thus, a year later, after averaging 22 points a game at Northeastern, he moved to another Boston basketball address. The Celtics chose him in the first round of the '87 draft. As a pro rookie, Reggie Lewis played just 405 minutes, but by 1989, he was the team's sixth man, an 18.5 points per game scorer. The formal starting role came in 1990, and the breakthrough in 91-92. Only twice in Celtic history had one player led the team in steals, blocks, and points in the same season. Reggie Lewis did it as a guard. The other who did it was a center, Dave Cowens. But the bare stats did not convey the role of Reggie Lewis. He succeeded Bird as team captain upon the latter's retirement. One writer characterized him as having the tools to be the bridge over which the Celtics cross. At 27, he had played 10 years of basketball in Boston. One day, one horrible day, would overshadow all of that time. April 29th, 1993. Not merely the collapse, the poignant rubbing of the chest, but the public agony of his diagnoses, the irony of the battery of doctors who were dubbed the Dream Team, who said he must stop playing, the doctor to whom he turned on his own, who said he could continue. He died as he lived, on the court. Reggie Lewis would have been 28 years old in a little over 3 months. He leaves his son Reginald, who is not yet one, and his wife, his college sweetheart Donna, who recently became pregnant for the second time.